Hey guys, how are you? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a mystery thriller from the United States, English language, released in the year 2012, directed by James McTeague, and this film is called The Raven. So The Raven is set in Baltimore in the 1800s in the USA. Edgar Allan Poe, the famous writer, is basically struggling for new work. He thinks of himself as God's gift to literature, but no one is really taking any more notice of him. So he's drowning his sorrows with alcohol, and he's also in love with a woman who's the daughter of the mayor, and the mayor is very aggressive and he doesn't approve of this relationship. So he's basically drowning his sorrows thinking where his next break is going to come. But his next break does come in the form of a serial killer who was picking off his victims on the streets of Baltimore, and it appears that he is heavily influenced in the works of Edgar Allan Poe. So the stories that he created have been emulated in real life, and this causes the detective in charge of the investigation to team up with Edgar Allan Poe in order to try and stop this killer from killing his next victim, who happens to be the girlfriend of Edgar Allan Poe who has been kidnapped. So it's a race against time, and Edgar Allan Poe is going to have to dig deep into the recesses of his mind in order to try and stay one step ahead of this killer, and whether or not he can is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going. It's my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Raven. This movie definitely does have its interesting points, so for that reason I would say go out there and check it out. But unfortunately I think this was definitely a very missed opportunity. It's because I think it does tend to go down the murder mystery road as opposed to actually documenting the life of Edgar Allan Poe. And I thought that would have been very interesting, is because you do have a very interesting character in this film, and you have very interesting themes that are going to be discussed in this movie, but it's not the focus, it's not the draw card. The draw card is this murder mystery that you've seen over and over again. You've seen it in films like Seven, you've seen it in numerous other films, and unfortunately numerous other films tell their mystery story a lot better than this one did. Is that you've got a cloud hanging over the film that is a lot more interesting than the actual material that you're actually seeing, and so therefore you feel a little bit distracted and you don't feel as captivated as the director really wants you to be. So to start off with, as I said, Edgar Allan Poe, one of the most fascinating writers out there, very dark and morbid stories that he wrote, poems that he created. It is basically, everyone knows about them. So this is a very interesting man, and the movie does depict some very interesting moments, but it's never really delved upon. It's always very vague. It's up in the air as to what this guy was all about, and it does depict themes that are very relevant in today's society as far as horror fans are concerned, as far as people who love horror, or who love horror literature, or who love directing horror films, or writing horror stories, such as Edgar Allan Poe. Who are they as a person? And usually if you can actually go into the dark depths of that Edgar Allan Poe did, it's usually an indication of what your life is. And so his life was being heavily influenced in his writings, and it does give you a very interesting element. As far as I'm concerned, being a horror lover myself, I have had a lot of problems with my health, and so my history, in my personal history, has influenced my love for the morbid and the very dark. And it's that element of life that a lot of people who've had very sheltered lives tend to turn a blind eye to. They turn the other cheek and they pretend it's not there because they haven't experienced it. And they want to think that the world is all sugar-coated unicorns and fairies, but in reality I have actually been to the dark depths, and this is why I can connect more to the morbid world. And so Edgar Allan Poe in this film is an alcoholic. You get glimpses that he's not a happy man, and that he's had a very troubled past. He's been around death a lot, and this is influencing him, and he's basically personalities coming out in his stories. And so I thought that was very, very interesting, but as I said, it never really delves into it. It's not the main focus, and I think the film would have been a lot better if it just steered clear of the murder mystery type of movie, and it would have been just a very thought-provoking portrayal of a very interesting man. Then you've also got other elements as far as the serial killer is concerned. Now he's imitating the art of Edgar Allan Poe, and this creates the age-old debate as far as horror fans are concerned, especially when you watch a horror film. Does the horror film have the capability of turning you into a monster? And a lot of people think it does, and a lot of people label horror as the freaks of nature for this very reason, and this movie indicates that once again as far as horror literature is concerned. This guy is imitating the art, and the art is actually imitating the life, and so it feels like Edgar Allan Poe's actual story and what he is actually being created in real life, and this is just another one of his stories. So I thought that was very interesting too, but as I said time and time again, it threatens to really delve into it, but it's only very vague. It's only a passing cloud, and it never really captures you as much as you really want it to. So it goes into this murder mystery. It looks very good. The cinematography is excellent, very Victorian, very gothic. It reminded me of the cinematography in Sleepy Hollow, where it just captures you in a very, it almost feels like literature that has come out and splashed onto the screen. So James McTeague does a very good job at actually capturing that moody atmosphere that a Edgar Allan Poe story would be. And you've got Pit and the Pendulum, you've got numerous other stories of Edgar Allan Poe that are actually documented in this killer's methods, and so fans of Edgar Allan Poe will find this incredibly interesting. Whether or not this is an accurate portrayal of how Edgar Allan Poe really was. I'm not sure, but it's not a movie that's supposed to be a documentary. It's not a biography. It's an actual entertaining film. But as I said, I would have liked it a little bit more if it was a little bit more serious, delving into the life of this actual subject. So you've got some pretty gruesome deaths that I liked. Some of it was actually quite creative, and there's a lot of mystery as to who this killer was. But unfortunately, as I said, this is where the negatives start to come to effect. It's not a bad film at all. It's actually definitely worthy of your time, but it is nothing different. It just feels like a generic sort of mystery whodunit sort of film where they get clues and the killer's still on the loose and you're trying to guess who it is, and then at the end of the film you just think, okay, well, that really wasn't terrible, but unfortunately I thought that if it knew exactly what it wanted to do, and if it went down a different avenue and it explored the themes that are depicted in the film, then I thought it would have been a hell of a lot better. So it's very good to look at. The cinematography is very good, the soundtrack's very good. The acting from John Cusack, I thought he was a little bit exaggerated from time to time. I didn't really get into his character as much, but there are moments where he's not actually talking, he's just thinking, or it's just his body language that indicates that broken soul that he was. And so I thought that John Cusack, he's not terrible in this film, but I thought it would have been better if it was a little bit better casted. You got Brendan Gleeson, who plays the mayor, who really doesn't deliver much. You've got the detective, I can't recall his name, I think it was Luke Evans, I could be wrong, but he does a very good job. He was a very charming character and I thought he was very likeable. But as I said, unfortunately, the very good cinematography, very good production and the very good acting doesn't really all add up to something that is incredibly memorable. As I said, it's a standard sort of murder mystery film, but I would still recommend it for the simple fact that it does have its interesting points. So overall, not a disappointing film, could have been better, and so as a result of that, I'm only going to give The Raven 3 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.